All right, guys, we are here today with Skylar Lewis, and we're going to chat a bit about business on the 33rd episode of the Blue Crocus Experience. So, Skylar has a cool story. I've been connected to him for a couple months now on Facebook, and he does an excellent job at kind of talking about what he's passionate about, which we'll get into here in a second. But he's very focused on helping men become the best version of themselves. That's the I think the sum up of what I see. But Skylar, if you want to dive in and tell us a little bit about where you started, we were just talking off air a little bit. If you want to get people up to speed with that, and then we can kind of take your story and run with it.
Yeah, totally. So I started where I started, man. So I started in a little town called Hemet, California, and grew up in like a little 700 square foot mobile home, and just always wanted to be successful and make as much money as I could, and have the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and cool cars. And grew up in a Christian household that was a little dysfunctional, and yeah, so I just started a ton of businesses before I was 18, man. Went all out. While everybody was out partying. During my senior year, I was out studying for my real estate exam to try to become a realtor right after. So I took my test like a month after I turned 18.
Yeah.
So I jumped into the real estate game. So I was always pretty driven. But then, yeah, I ended up creating some success in business and realized, that just financial success, wealth is great, but it's not as fulfilling as I thought it would be. And so, so I went on a journey, man, of trying to figure out, like, how do you create fulfillment and success and happiness, and where does that come from? And so I realized that, starting to live on purpose was a more effective way, and building businesses on purpose, right? Instead of just to make more money or just to make money. And so I really focused on building my business on purpose. And so I started Superior Restoration, which I've had for about 10 years now. And that was more intentional with the way I started and grew that company. I wanted to glorify God through the business, through taking care of my employees, through taking care of the community, through how I treated my customers. I wanted everything that I did to glorify God and to be just a unique example, not only just how we take care of people, but even profitability, even expansion, how quickly we've grown, like all of it. I wanted it to be a great representation of, a Christian ran business. And so that's kind of been my purpose in growing businesses. And I think it's great, man. I think if people can start to live a little bit more on purpose, they can be just more effective and produce more results and be happier too.
Yeah, I saw a quote the other day. It was like a lot of people are really quickly, they're moving really fast toward nowhere. But if we can find a direction and at least take steps there daily, that's a step in the right direction, right? I did want to go back to, you said, you kind of achieved the success by what sounds like not being the life of the party by any means when you were in your senior year, just grinding and hustling, which I think a lot of people listening and hearing your story can relate to that, the grind and being maybe, kind of setting yourself apart. But you're obviously pushing for a goal, and a lot of people talk about, you got to have a goal, you got to have a vision of where you want it to go. It sounded like you had that. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I've always had goals for sure. So I'm like a goal setting, I've been setting goals since I was like 14 years old, just every year, specific goals on what I want to achieve. So yeah, I'm super driven and goal focused. And then there's now a higher arching purpose though, that a lot of those goals tie into.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like your goal was really like a certain financial status. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think I was searching for significance. You're talking about when I was younger.
Exactly.
Kind of just being I was searching, right? Because I had I don't know, something inside me. I guess it was maybe an insecurity thing. I just wanted to prove myself, that I was worthy, prove that I could create success.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been because I was a little bit, I don't know, it could have been just some of the friendships that I had or something inside me wanted to prove myself, I think. And now that I look back on it, right, I was going to prove my success and prove my significance through building big businesses and through selling businesses and through making money, right? And yeah, that could be that could motivate people, but eventually that motivation doesn't work as well. You know, eventually it could cause some chaos and cause some issues. So,
Yeah, I'd love to dive into that a bit because a lot of people do, we're not starting a business to lose money. We're starting a business to, to reach some sort of hopefully freedom for our family or whatever. And so, a lot of people will throw themselves so hard into achieving that monetary goal that everything else falls by the wayside, their marriage, their friendships, so on and so
yeah,
forth. So,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
sure. And so at my company, Rise Up Kings, which is my like main focus right now. That's Superior Restoration. My restoration company is running on its own. I run into that all the time, right? So these guys, these men, these successful guys that are just really hustling and grinding. They have marriages, they have kids, and they're working 10 hours a day or not being present with their family. They're just really focused on creating wealth. And if you ask them, like, why are you doing this? Right? Like, why are you working so hard? Their answers are usually pretty unclear. They're not exactly sure why they're doing it. They just got into that trap of just doing it. Yeah. And many times when they dive deep, it's usually the most successful, I found this to be true, the most successful people are usually achievers. And so people usually, they learn to achieve to kind of prove themselves initially.
Yeah.
And then eventually achievement to prove yourself dies out when you start to run nowhere. You're literally running, but you've already achieved stuff. There's nothing kind of left to prove, but you're still just in this this wheel and just running. And so eventually people get an opportunity when they hit that point. They're like, why am I doing this? They get to start to be reflective and say, hey, okay, cool. Like, I either could keep building businesses and keep grinding just to go achieve more things, or I can now transfer to a place of purpose, and now I'm achieving for a purpose. Like, either that's to glorify God, or that's to make a difference in the world or impact people in a different way. And through achieving for a purpose, it's a whole new level of energy and fulfillment and even success. I believe even more success can come from living on purpose. But I think most successful people are, in general, they have this like achiever kind of deep down, desire to prove themselves.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm wondering if you might have, like, was there one defining moment when you were like, okay, I've got the cars, I've got the house, or whatever it was that you had achieved financially. Was there a moment where you kind of looked at it, you looked inside yourself and said, okay, Skylar, something's got to change because I just feel empty? Or maybe talk a bit about that, what that looked like.
Yeah, let me think back. Yeah, I don't know if there was a specific time, but there was definitely times when I was married and I wasn't being present with my family. And I was kind of neglecting my wife and not being the best husband that I could be, because I was just on my phone right after I come home from work. I would be checking emails, even though I'm done with work. I'd still be checking emails,
your brain's text still
messages, and still going. And so at a certain point, in that area, I knew it had to change because it was affecting the relationship. And so I said, hey, I need to start operating differently, where I'm no longer just driven by the straight focus of building a business, but really like making a difference in my family's life also. Like, my priorities kind of shifted. I think actually when I had my first kid, my priorities shifted, and I realized like family is one of the most important things in my life. And now business needs to operate around my family.
As a supporting factor for it.
Exactly. Yeah, business is supporting the family. It's not my family supporting the business. So I would adjust my schedule. So for like the last 6 years, so I work. Well, I was taking a day off every week. I took it off on Wednesday so I could go to Disneyland and hang out with my kids. And then eventually I got to 3 days a week. Then eventually I got to 2 days a week in my business. And it was cool. So I just had extra time. Like my motivator was not to work as much as I can. I was like, hey, how do I work less, produce the same results, so I can do the things that I truly love and I'm passionate about even more?
Yeah.
And so that, again, became kind of a driving factor. And I think it started with my kids. That was a big part.
Because they kind of push a reset button on your marriage, and you realize that, things have to shift and you got to gotta swoop in there as a father.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't want to be one of those kind of deadbeat dads that was not present with his kids and kind of neglected his family. That was the last thing I was willing to be. I would do anything to not be that guy.
Yeah.
I wanted to be present with my family. I mean, I wanted to spend time, have fun with them.
Yeah, that speaks to me a bit because that's something that my business is just over a year old, and so I'm still very much in the grind. I've been full time now for 3 months, and so I can relate to that. Go home and you're checking messages on Facebook, emails, whatever, and you feel the need to respond as quickly as possible to keep the ball rolling. But at the same time, I know my attention is divided, and so it's not fully there for my family. It's not fully there for my business. So that's been something that, I've been working on. And I know, you're probably going to say, well, you just got to, maybe what would you say? What would you say to someone that's struggling with that?
Yeah, great question. There's a lot of people that have challenges with that. So what I've done that worked pretty well, and my wife, I would say a lot of my success and the man I am today has to do with my wife pushing me, right, to be the best version of myself also.
Yeah.
So she just has high expectations. She's like, hey, so can you be present when you're here, like after work? She's like, you can work till however late you want, but when you're home with me, can you be present? I'm like, okay, fair enough. So like I've for the last couple of years, I finished work at about 5 o'clock. So I don't really work till 5 because my kids go to bed about 7:30 or 8. So I want to get like that 3 hours in with them. So I come home, I'm there for, at 5 o'clock, and then I pretty much don't touch my phone or look at my phone at all. So I just made a commitment and been disciplined around that. So my team knows not to call me after 5.
Yep.
My employees know, like I've set standards. It was funny. I think actually where I got this from was I had a guy that I was in a really cool business group with, and I would try to reach out to him to like text him like after 5, like, hey dude, let's plan a date to get together. And then he wouldn't respond to me till the next day. And I noticed it happened probably 2 or 3 times. And I said, hey dude, like, what's up? Like, you don't respond like after 5. He's like, no, it's my family time. I said, like, not at all. He's like, no, I literally turn my phone off the whole time until the next day. I said, wow, dude, that's powerful. That's some discipline. And so I said, okay, if he can do that, I totally can wait till. And what's cool is when you set those boundaries, right? You don't work past 5. You learn to get everything done that you need to before it. So whether it's 5, 5:36, like whenever you finish work, the goal is get it done in that time frame. And you can. I guarantee you, if you push your work hours to 3 p.m., you would find a way. And so that's how we, at Rise of Kings, that's how we collapse people's time frames, is we give them less time to do the same work. And the mind is so powerful, it'll find a way to get more done in a shorter period of time if you give it the opportunity. You have some boundaries on how much you're going to work or your hours you're going to work.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, that's really resonating with me, Skylar. I'll just be honest. Like I told you before we got on air, I came on hungry to learn from you as well. And I think, my wife holds me to a high standard as well. But truthfully, I sometimes, I pull out my phone because it's like maybe I haven't put in 100% effort during the day. And so it feels like you've got to play a little catch up and maybe send that message or try and catch someone. But that's very challenging for me. Like I take that as a personal challenge to, I'm gonna do that for a week, and I'll touch in with you a week from now and let you know how.
I would totally challenge you to do that, and you will be more productive during those hours, like you kind of mentioned, right? So I was talking to a mentor. I went on a walk this morning, and really wealthy Christian business owner, this super wealthy guy, and we were having a conversation. He's like, because I'm writing a book called The 2-Day-a-Week CEO, because I've been working about 2 days a week or less than 2 days a week for the last 5 years, and I've built a whole system around it. So I'm teaching other business owners how to do that same thing. And so he was like, yeah, he's like, you're totally right on. He's like, most people, they probably get a solid 2 to 3 days of actual productive, really important work done in a 5-day week. So in 5 days, they probably get 2 to 3 days of actual like impactful work.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. It's like, well, why not just do it all in 2 or 3 days and then take the other 2 days off? Yeah. But if you give yourself 5 days, then you'll fill it in with social media, with looking at the news, with going on the computer, with checking this, it just wasted time. I'd rather not waste any time and just work less and have more focused work.
And then have more focused play as well.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. I'm way more focused with my kids.
Because I mean, surfing the news or YouTube is only like halfway really what you want to be doing. If you had to choose between going out for a walk with your kids and surfing YouTube, you'd probably go for a walk with your kids.
Dude, all day long. I think we just get caught up in some bad habits.
Yeah. That's interesting because I was listening to an Ed Milet talk as well. It must have been a month or two ago, and he talks about he operates on, I think it's 2 or 3 days in a 24-hour period, and so he has one that goes from I think it's 6 a.m. to 12 noon, and then 12 noon to 5. I think I don't remember exactly, but it's interesting that you kind of talk about the same sort of concept just a little bit differently. Yeah,
it's collapsing time frames. It's shortening the time periods that you get stuff done. You can produce a lot more results. I'm familiar with Ed Milet's strategy around that. It can be powerful. So I do it with larger periods of time, like during a week. So he'll do it during one day, which I guess is even more powerful. It's way harder to execute on.
Yeah.
But most people could take a day off, right? They could take one day off, and then if they said, "Hey, I had to get everything done in 4 days," it would be hard the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, but then eventually they would find a way to get everything done in 4 days. And a lot of times people are like, "Well, my team isn't going to like it if I take a day off. I think I'm slacking. I have to set the pace," which isn't accurate at all. So there's more to that for sure. But anyway, that's a
basic. Yeah, it's setting expectations with your team and making sure they buy into the vision as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, and there's certain times you want to do that too. So some people are just really on hardcore growth mode. So 5 days a week, 6 days a week is awesome to work and to knock stuff out, as long as you're actually being productive during those times, during the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody can resonate, especially with someone in an office job, it's much easier to get distracted. If you're out, doing a physical job, it's, you can pretty well focus on that because that's the only thing you can do. But business owners, I think I can certainly resonate with that as well. I'm going to pursue that some more. Let's circle back around to, when you started your restoration company and, you said you wanted to do it more purposely, with more purpose, as a whole vision. Can you talk a bit about what that looked like and how you set that up? And then I do want to finish up with talking, at least for a few minutes about Rise Up Kings and give you a place to pitch that as well.
Yeah. So Superior Restoration, it's kind of like my little masterpiece. I'm really proud of that company. My focus was building a company that was just different and that was unique. And so in my mind, I wanted to build a company where the employees had more ownership and actually were operating the company. Because I believe that was, that was a different way of operating that would glorify God. It'd be so unique because most owners are in it. They're controlling all the pieces. They like to be in most decisions. And so I started to build my company in a way that would be employee driven, where my team would make the decisions, where I could pour into my team, and it takes time to do that though. So I started with one employee, 10 years ago. We have 40 employees right now, and I just hired one employee. I trained them, another, and trained them till I got, to about 14, 15 employees. And at about that period, I was able to build a full management team. I had 4 people on the management team. And then that's where I really started. That was about probably 3 years into it. I started to hey guys, what do you think about this? Hey guys, what goals do you want to set this year? Hey, how do you want to, what type of marketing should we do? I started asking them all the questions instead of directing everything that they should do. So in every meeting now, even now, I go into my office 1 day a week on Tuesdays, and I'm asking questions the entire time. Hey, what's your plan for this? What's this? I make it a point to not just, hey, we should do this, we should do this, we should do that. And it's really easy for business owners to do that because, especially men, we like to fix things. And so the worst thing you can do is solve everybody's problem in your company. You have to allow them to be able to solve their own problem. So even in newer employees, even for you, Lewis, you hire a new person, you train them, get them trained. And then now when they have an issue and they say, hey, how should I handle this? Don't give them the answer. You say, how would you handle that?
I love that.
And then continue to always ask, hey, how would you handle that? hey, what are your top 3 options of how, come back to me tomorrow, give me your top 3 options of how you would handle that situation and what your number 1 option is. And so you get them to think on their own and to think kind of like business owners. And that's where like a lot of the ownership mentality comes in. That's how you can build a company that runs on its own, is when you have employees that have an ownership mentality that you've been cultivating in them for years. And now, like, when you start to pull away, they already have the ownership mentality, the culture's there, the systems are there, and then they can feel confident running a business without you.
Was that easy for you all the time?
Oh, no, we had lots of drama, dude. I mean, one year we let go of probably 20 employees. We just like rebuilt our whole team. I mean, all kinds of issues, just building culture, figuring out the right way to do it, struggling with, we had multiple employees leave and start their own companies. I was a poor leader for many of the years, right? I thought I was a really cool leader, and I thought I was awesome because I had done personal development and I was into, into Tony Robbins. So I knew it all. And anyway, I knew nothing. So I was humbled many times to the point where I realized, I'm never like there. Even now, like, I'm still messing up, right? I still could give my team even a little bit more attention and more gratitude and connect with them more. So I'm constantly like just checking in and trying to be aware with where I'm at. So no, it's a journey, man. It's a journey of ups and downs. It's not a straight line at all. It's literally up and down, up and down, up and down, until you get to a place where you'll never make it, but you'll get to a place where ideally the place would be that you feel like you're a pretty good leader. It all starts with us, right? It's not the employees, it's not all the other stuff. It's how am I showing up every day? Am I caring about the team? Am I bringing passion? Am I being disciplined? Am I following my procedures that I put in place? Like, how am I showing up as the leader every single day is the most important thing, first and foremost.
I love that. Yeah, because I know that I'm starting to get some people on to help me even in part-time roles, and I'm realizing pretty quickly it's like I like to have my fingers in my hands in all the pies, and I like to be, and so, but I know that my end goal is I'd like to be able to step away, kind of like what you're saying there, and so I'm having to figure out, maybe I need better processes. I definitely need better processes. I need better, letting them take more ownership and stuff. So that's awesome. That's encouraging to hear, but also, an admonishment as well for me and people listening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a worthwhile journey too. I think as I'm writing my book, it's neat because you can build a company where everything relies on you. But at the end of the day, it's way more fulfilling if you can actually develop leaders and develop people that actually run a systemized company. And that is fun. Like, that's awesome. At the end of the day, if it's all running on you, it's cool because you're needed. You feel valued because everybody needs to come to you to make all the decisions, sort of key decisions. But it's way more fulfilling. Like, one of my, I have my general manager who runs the company right now. Her name's Stephanie, and she started out as an assistant about 7 years ago, making like $14 an hour.
Yeah. And
then she eventually merged into so like I continued to like put stuff on her plate, and she was sharp, and I developed and I poured time into making her as good as she could be. And then she became the office manager. And then I added more stuff on her plate and continued developing her, sending her through seminars, reading books with her. And she eventually became pretty skilled, and she became our operations manager. And then as an operations manager, we actually hired an outside general manager, and they were working together. And Stephanie was actually like more effective on executing on things than our general manager. So eventually moved on from the general manager, and I promoted her to the general manager. So over the last 7 years, right now she's running a $10 million company and like killing it, like dominating, just doing an incredible job. And so that to me is, that's one of my most fulfilling things, is having somebody that you could bring up from the bottom to where they're just very capable and very skilled, very emotionally aware, and just like an incredible team member, right? And now they're running the whole thing. So that's fun. Yeah. I would recommend that for anybody, right? To be able to have that experience. But it starts with your leadership, and then starting to pour into people and developing your team and doing it with a purpose, right? Your purpose is to pour into your team and make their lives better.
I love that. I love that. And I think that segues really well into Rise Up Kings, because you're pouring out kind of the lessons that you've learned into other business owners. So talk to us a bit about that and what that looks like for business owners, because that's, like you said, that is your passion now. So
Yeah. So Rise Up Kings is a pretty ridiculous program. Pretty awesome. It's the foundation is it's for men of faith that want to scale their companies, want to really grow their companies at a rapid pace, whether they're 100,000 or 500,000 or a million or 10 million, 20 million. Then there's a system to scaling properly. And so Rise Up Kings is all about getting guys into a place where they can scale their companies while still being connected and in love with their wife. That's the worst thing that can happen is you build a business that's successful, requires all your time, and then your wife leaves you. Yeah. For another man that actually shows her attention, that actually is like making her feel special. Yeah. Right? It happens all day long, every day, especially out here in Orange County. Yeah. And so if you can avoid that, right? And so there's a process, because there's all these spinning plates. You have the business, you have your marriage, you have your kids, you have your faith, your relationship with God, you have your fitness and your health, and all these spinning plates. And most men are not very successful in managing all of those. There's a lot of guys you can meet that are really successful that have poor marriages, or that are really in love with their wife and are broke. Yeah. So it's very rare that you find a 4-dimensional man that is on fire in all of those areas, and that has the opportunity to reach their potential. So Rise Up Kings is all about, how do you rise up to your God-given potential? And you do it through really maximizing and maxing out on all 4 of those pillars. They call them the 4 pillars. They're key to living a really successful and fulfilling life. Because if one pillar is out of whack, let's call it your health, and you're making millions, but you're on your deathbed because you have cancer, because you treated your body like crap, what's the point of that? Or you're making $1 million a year, but your wife just left you and took the kids. So you need all 4 of those. And those are the key to really living a life of true potential. And so my mission is I try to help guys live their maximum potential. And so the guys that are in the program, my message things is going off the charts right now on my phone. We have these groups of these masterminds where guys are literally living they're on fire, with everything they're doing. And so that's my mission, man. That's my purpose now. So I dedicate 4 days a week to that, just really, growing and getting the word out and building this movement, and really just supporting men on their next level, helping them level up,
I love that. As a fellow Christian who, resonates with your message, one of the things that I've seen that's a bit of a hot button topic on your feed is, the concept of being really successful and wealthy while still being, really devoted to your faith. Maybe dive into that a bit, because you've explained it well on the post, but I'd love for people to hear it here as well.
That's one of the most controversial topics for sure. It is harder for a rich man to enter. How's the saying go? It's harder for a rich man. It's harder for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle than it is for him to enter the kingdom of God. So that's a saying, and so many verses people hold on to these sayings, money is the root of all evil, and all of these sayings in the Bible. But in reality, I believe God does want Christians to be wealthy. Who do you think he would want to be more wealthy and live a life of happiness, a Christian or a non-Christian? You know what I mean? Does a broke Christian with a broken marriage, out of shape, fat, and on the couch glorify God? Is that does that bring glory? Do people say, I want to be like that guy?
Exactly.
Or do they see somebody right in shape, they're on point marriage, and they're wealthy and they're glorifying God by the way they give their money away? They're contributing, they're making a difference, they're loving on their employees, they're building a great business. Which one would glorify God more? Which one do you think God would want more? And so I believe God does want people to be wealthy, but he will not give them that wealth until their foundation and their pillars are on point, until God is number one in their life, and until they're faithful with their money. So if they're not tithing, if they're not giving away, if they're not being faithful with what they have now, dude, good luck with God helping you build a tremendous amount of wealth. And so if you have those areas on point, I do believe God wants Christians to be wealthy and to glorify him, and to be a great representation of him with that money. I grew up, my mom was a poor Christian, and she loved people, but she struggled with her bill, or there's all kinds of drama and stuff happened in her life that was completely could have been avoided if she actually had money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and one of our, like Alyssa and my visions is to help people locally. There's a lot of need with, the churches and the homeless population. And so, you can volunteer your time all you want, but to make real change, eventually you need some sort of financial backing, I think. I mean, there's lots of different schools of thought on that, but that's kind of where we're going with it.
Yeah, because of course you can make a difference, right, serving just with yourself, right? But that's what business is all about, is how do you leverage resources to make a bigger impact, right? I can only make so much money in my business if it was just me. But if I build a team, so same thing with contribution, if you can, right, if I can go donate $100 grand or $200 grand to a specific program, I can make, I mean, man, I work with a company called Life Water. They build wells in Ethiopia, and I mean, I've helped thousands of kids, right? Helping to build schools and wells. I mean, thousands of kids' lives forever changed because my business was able to bless me with some financial wealth. Like, I'm super fulfilled by that. And and Life Water comes in and teaches about God to these kids too. I mean, it's insane the impact you can have with money. It's not necessary for sure, but God has called some people to build businesses and to use that money to make a difference. And so I work with those guys. I don't work with the pastor that, has his own thing. That's somebody else's mission field. My mission field is helping Christian men create irresistible lives that glorify God and make a huge impact in the world. So
I love that. And that, I mean, that, would you say that basically sums up the Rise Up Kings?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you to find out more? If you are a man of faith who's looking to level up, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can go to riseupkings.com, or they can follow me on my social media platforms, which is Skylar Lewis, SKYLAR, and then Lewis, LEWIS. So riseupkings.com is usually the best way to go check out what we have going on. So
I love it. That's awesome, man. I really appreciate your time here today. I know you've got some things, but if you had one thing you could say to a business owner who is starting out and kind of overwhelmed by, do I focus on getting money? Do I focus on my family? What would you kind of sum it up as?
Yeah, I would say even before all of that, figure out why you're building the business and some deeper purpose that will allow you to go through the pain and struggle of building a company. Because it's it can be very tough and very hard, but if you have a strong purpose and why, and a lot of times if you can attach it to God, right, like making a difference, it will make your life so much easier when you go through those hard times, because you're doing it for such a deep purpose. And it'll also help you make all the decisions in alignment with that purpose too. So you'll run a better business if you have a worthy purpose of why you're doing it.
I love that. That's fantastic. Well, I can't really wrap up with much better of a line than that. So, Skylar, we'll just finish up off your air here really quickly, but it's been an honor to have you, to take your time and learn from you and be challenged by you. And I look forward to learning more and growing with you on your journey as well.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.